to start off with, can you tell me a bit about yourself, including your name, pronouns, and your identity?
Okay, sure. So my name is Jakubowska. I use he, her pronouns, and I'm a 25-year-old transgender man. I live in Manchester, specifically in Salford, but I was actually born in Poland and I moved to the UK about 6 years ago.
And so how long have you been in Manchester when you started helping the LGBT Foundation and doing the community organising?
So I think it was about like the next year when I joined university in 2016. So I went to Uni of Salford to study graphic design, and essentially, I think I must have seen a poster of LGBT Foundation or someone maybe signposted me to them. I'm not entirely sure. I remember though I did join the LGBT Society at uni, and so maybe someone from the society pointed me towards the foundation, and then I learned that they had like the trans program and that they were doing the meetups for trans MCR, and I found that so interesting, and especially because I really needed that community at the time. I was sort of at the beginning of socially transitioning, just left a country that's very intolerant of trans people, and so I really wanted that community. So that was kind of my introduction to the foundation.
What about on a bigger scale, so just sort of maybe in the UK, do you think that there's been a lot of change again from when you came here to now?
Yeah, I think things are definitely different. And when I sort of came to the UK, I didn't have much of an idea of all the things connected to sort of the legalities, for example, of being trans and the healthcare and access to medical transition and stuff like that. So it was I kind of had to learn on the spot as it was changing, and you know, even now things are still in the air with the GRA, for example, changing and stuff like that. So I feel like things are different, but at the same time, on the other hand, you've got the kind of increased media oppression for specifically targeting trans people, and even more specifically trans women. And there's this whole sort of quote unquote trans debate, or you know, however people want to call it. And so I certainly feel like that has escalated over the last few years. So I can't really say where things are going to go because of the government not being as supportive as they should be, and obviously the pandemic happening as well. So maybe priorities have changed, and yeah.
And you mentioned the GRA there, right? Could you just clarify what that is?
Oh yeah, sorry. So it's the basically it stands for Gender Recognition Certificate, I think, GRC or GRA, which is Gender Recognition Act, I believe. And it's, essentially a few years back there was a survey done by the government that they wanted to kind of streamline and simplify the process of obtaining that certificate, because at the time it was expensive. There was like an anonymous panel of people that basically decided whether you were trans enough to have your gender legally changed on your documents or not. And so obviously people were not happy with that, and we campaigned for sort of a more of like a self-describing approach. But at the time there was also like loads of hate and debate again about, you know, people worrying that maybe trans people who self-describe are going to like invade female-only spaces and stuff like that. So it was a whole ordeal, and I don't know if it actually came to a conclusion yet. It might have, but the changes that were made, they're good, but I don't think it's enough. And still, for example, non-binary people have no legal recognition in the light of the law. So there is no sort of they're not mentioned on the Equality Act and stuff, so there isn't any kind of things preventing like hate crimes towards them, which I find shocking. And obviously you can't declare your gender to be non-binary on your documents in England, which you can in other countries, I believe. So there is still ways to go for sure.
So when you were doing the organising, what sort of things did you do? Was it on your own or with other people?
So basically, it was the Trans Forum at the University of Salford, and that's what it got called. But at the beginning, it was literally just me and this other person, and the facilitator from the DNI. And so we joined the first meeting, and it was just me and that other person, and we became friends pretty much straight away. And it's funny because we're still friends now. And so we, at the beginning, the purpose of the forum was to kind of was the uni's ambition to become more trans friendly as a whole, as a organization. So across multiple things like building and infrastructure, admin, policies, recruitment and stuff. And the uni had this ambition to kind of be more inclusive. So the Trans Forum was built to support that. And obviously we knew it was going to be a massive project and it would probably take years. So we didn't think that we were like alone are going to accomplish anything pretty much. And we didn't even know about, if any other uni in the UK did a similar thing. So we were kind of in a way trying to pioneer something. And the focus was on making trans and non-binary students feel safer on campus and supported and easier with all the procedures and stuff. So at the beginning it was like just me and a few people, and then obviously the forum sort of kicked off and some more people started to come to the meetings. So we would make suggestions and plans on how to improve the experiences of trans students. So yeah, that's how it started out.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you're saying that, obviously, wanting to make the university, more safe and comfortable for trans people. Are there particular spaces that you felt was more welcome in Manchester, and what was it about those places that made you feel like that?
I think in general, Manchester has and had a reputation for being kind of open-minded and welcoming for LGBTQ plus people. And at the time, from what little I knew, I kind of had that impression. And obviously Salford being a little bit on the side, it wasn't, I didn't know much about it in the first place. And the university seemed like it was trying to be kind of modern and accommodating for people. And they had all sorts of kind of support for, people from different walks of life and people with disabilities, but they didn't have anything specific towards trans people. So we kind of thought, okay, there is the foundation working in Manchester and city centre, but Salford is kind of on its own. So let's try and build something to help that community of people here.
And how do you think your identity personally has been influenced by your experiences with community organising?
I think, I always say it whenever someone tries to tell me, oh, you're an activist or something, I always say, I'm not an activist. And if I am, it's not out of choice, it's out of necessity. But I feel like a lot of people actually kind of are like that. They see that something needs doing around their local environment and they see that nothing is being done, so they take it on and they try and organize and run with it. But personally, as a person, it was I think very important for my self-confidence and, you know, doing things way out of my comfort zone, like I said, presenting in front of people and teaching people about things that I barely had any grasp on to begin with. And also, you know, you have to be kind of vulnerable and put yourself out there because you're talking about something that's so personal to you. Um, but being involved, you know, with the wider trans community in Salford and in Manchester, I met so many great people, you know, got to know their stories. We got some amazing conversations. So, you know, that as well, the kind of community part of it, especially as I said, I moved here quite young and on my own. So having that support from people who are like you, um, I think that was my biggest takeaway from that. And the sense of pride too, you know, like doing something good, doing something that was worth doing, um, was just great.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about that we haven't already?
One thing that I forgot to mention actually um, was the role of allies as well, because as much as we did all of the organizing mostly on our own, the person who initially brought us together and facilitated our meetings and stuff was an ally. And he was not trans, but he was so accepting and supportive. And, you know, it really showed me that good allies are out there and they can help, you know, give us the voice and make us heard. Um, and, you know, they could have gone for someone else. They could have, you know, hired someone externally or I don't know, but they chose to trust um, us as trans people to know our experiences best. And it's always a really good move on the allies part to be like, okay, I'm not an expert, I will get someone who has lived experience to explain these things to you. Um, so that was really good. And I'm not entirely sure if he still works at the uni, but he was just the catalyst for that as well. So that was really good.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time today, Carol.